Hi, everyone. This is Terrie Carr. You may know me from my radio days and, of course, my new Car Stereo podcast. And I am so excited to be on my weekly mixtape with my good friend Brian Colburn talking about music. Brian's one of the best guys to talk about music, too. He always gets my brain working a little bit. So, super excited to be on the podcast. And I hope you guys enjoy it.
What is going on, friends? Welcome to my weekly mixtape, the show that takes the classic mixtape approach to building a modern playlist. I'm your host, Brian Colburn, and joining me tonight is someone who I consider to be New Jersey, New York rock radio royalty, and someone who sets the interview bar at heights that I aim to achieve each and every week here on my weekly mixtape. So it's my absolute honor to welcome the one and only Terrie Carr to the show. Terrie, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Brian, thank you so much for having me. I'm a fan of you and your interviews. I love the podcast because I love to talk music and I love to hear when people are talking about music. So I'm totally into it. So I'm really honored that you're letting me be a guest. It's so weird that I'm a guest because I'm never a guest. I always have the guest. So it's like so strange, to be kind of on the other side here.
Well, then I am going to start with the basics here.
Okay.
What does the word mixtape mean to you?
Oh, the word mixtape has a bunch of different meanings to me. It means to me being a little kid and taping my favorite songs off the radio. It also has a very romantic meaning because, back in the day, if a guy that you liked made you a mixtape, I have mixtapes from many people that I dated, which is like really fun and nice. So there's like a lot of very romantic connotations, and not just because you dated people, but music is very romantic. So it takes me back to a place where there was just romance in everything, if that makes any sense.
Oh, it makes total sense. And what a perfect segue into tonight's topic, because we are going to be talking about post-2000 power ballads tonight.
Ooh, okay.
And when I hear people discuss power ballads, it usually veers straight to that late 80s, put your lighters in the air motif.
Yes.
But at its core, a power ballad is a slow, heavy, anthemic rock song. That never went away. Yet the term itself, to me at least, feels frozen kind of in the 80s. How do you think power ballads evolved over the last few decades?
Well, power ballads are always very emotionally charged. They're not always down tempo. Some of them are kind of like a mid down tempo. And I think the evolution has changed from, dare I say it, screwing your favorite person to mental health issues, loss, not just love loss, but losing a friend or losing a parent. I think that as artists evolve and get older, you're starting to experience more death in your life and less sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So divorce, maybe losing a parent, a child, or something. So a lot of the power ballads, I think, as artists get older and decades move on, change. And I also think that there's a different connotation around mental health these days. So you will see a lot of the post-2000 power ballads starting to get some sprinklings in of when people are going through struggles. And I think that that's really come to the forefront in the modern day powered ballad for sure.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I don't remember a lot of that being touched on in the late 80s, except for the far extreme of suicide, like Ozzy Osbourne and Lita Ford, Close My Eyes Forever, or Kix, Don't Close Your Eyes. But the actual mental health part of it was almost taboo, even during the hair band era, because it didn't fit the sex, drugs, excess, and rock and roll vibe. It was almost that era's kryptonite in a sense.
Especially for men. Like men never talked about mental health. It was something that nobody ever spoke about. And now it seems to be just a lot more commonplace. So I think that the evolution of music as a whole has embraced this sort of different box that wasn't there before.
Well, before we start mapping out our collective post 2000 power ballads, I'd like to give a quick shout out to a few of the Patreon mixtapers who chimed in with songs they feel should be on our radar this evening. And for those out there listening, if you'd like to be a part of that conversation, you could do so over at patreon.com/my weekly mixtape. First off, Chad Lamassa chimed in with the bruised power ballad. And yes, that's actually a term for a subgenre of power ballads. I didn't know that.
I like that. I like that a lot. That's Chad?
Yeah, I never heard that term before, but I had to do some digging on it.
Me neither. Go, Chad. I did not know this. How did I not know this in all my years in radio? Chad is the freaking man.
Yeah, bruised power ballads are, and I quote, lyrically more intimate, vulnerable, or often self-destructive versus the traditional ballad rooted in romance or breakup.
Wait, Brian, I may hit you up after for that because I may want to write all that down. That is very impressive. Chad, good for you. See, I learn something every day.
And the song he chose was Sorry for It All by Dead Sarah.
Oh, I love that song.
Oh, Dead Sarah is incredible. And I know Chad and I have had many conversations about this because he's a bit concerned because of Emily Armstrong's association with Linkin Park now that Dead Sarah might not be anymore. And I keep telling him, hold out hope.
They never got what they deserved. They really, really never got as a band what they deserved. I remember people telling me they're going to be huge. They're going to be huge. They're going to be huge. And there were just so many mountains that they had to climb and it just never happened. And such a great, great band.
And I think when Linkin Park has downtime, I have a feeling they're going to finally get their just due.
Yeah, she'd be crazy not to. Yeah.
Sean Goff chimed in with Butch Walker's aptly titled Mixtape. Love me some Butch Walker. And Tom Hutchinson chimed in with a pair of tunes, so I guess one lighter in each hand for this one. Hinder's Lips of an Angel and Buckcherry's Sorry.
Oh, little Buckcherry power ballad. I love that.
And for those out there listening, once again, if you want to chime in on future My Weekly Mixtape episodes, you could do so at patreon.com/My Weekly Mixtape. All right, Terrie, I'm going to turn the mic over to you. What is the first song that comes to your mind when you think about post-2000 power ballads and why?
I try to give a little different list. I try to sort of think of some of the power ballads that maybe people didn't think of top of mind. And I'm going to start with one of my favorite bands of all time, and that is Sevendust.
Oh.
And Angel Sun. Now, 2001 was when they released it on Animosity, so it could be a little gray area here. Written by LJ, LaJean Witherspoon, and Clint Lowry, mourning the death of the lead vocalist of a band called Snot, if you remember.
Yes.
And there was a tribute album that actually came out to Lynn Straight of Snot before that. And then all of a sudden, these guys decided to put it on their record. And it was a big hit for Sevendust. I mean, I remember when Sevendust got signed, TVT, they were this wild metal band. A couple of my friends worked for TVT Records and said, you've got to check this band out. They are just like the new face of metal. They were one of the first new metal bands and one of the most amazing new metal bands. And then we get this song from them. And LJ has a whole different vocal approach on this song. So I was able to actually hear his ebbing and flowing and all of his singing. And this is just a really special song for me, and a really special song when you see the band in concert, because as wild and amped up as the crowd is, then they do Angel Sun, and you can hear a pin drop and everybody just stops. And I think the band that can get you on 25 and then get you to just hear a pin drop and listen to every word and feel it, and people are crying and it reminds them all of somebody that they've lost, it's a very impactful moment. So that song, I think, should always be at the upper list of the post-2000 power ballads.
I immediately think of that original video with the members of Snot when they were sitting on the beach. That was for the Straight Up album. That came out my senior year in college, right at the tail end of me leaving college radio. Everybody sitting on the beach, jamming that song in eulogy. I get goosebumps just talking about it.
Yeah, the video is incredible, just absolutely incredible. The band wasn't really, nobody was sure what to do. with that song or with that video. LJ kind of said, we were coming up and we didn't really know that many people who died in a car accident. So it was unexpected. And the emotion in that is just crazy.
Unbelievable. And then obviously the version from Animosity where they bring the string section in and they really put the Sevendust sound on it. Now, to me, this introduced people to a whole different side of Sevendust because the closest songs you can find on their first two albums to Angel's Son were maybe, and I'm really going out on a limb here, My Ruin from the self-titled had a bit of a mid-tempo vibe, but it was still heavy as hell. And then if you even want to count Insecure, which was just a 1-minute interlude on Home, this showed people the depth that Sevendust had. And I don't think you would have ever gotten the acoustic tours or the acoustic album if it wasn't for Angel's Son opening up that dynamic of this band.
Yeah, yeah. And a big hit for them. I think it went to number 11 on the charts, and that was a big deal at that time because music was kind of sounding the same-ish, and those metal bands were not really charting, like they are now or like they can now. So that was a big moment for Sevendust for sure. So huge stuff. Love that song. Love, love, love it.
I'm going to stay in this vibe, a little bit of a darker way to start here. Because when we started this episode, we talked about how bands were opening up and being more vulnerable post-2000, something you didn't get in the 80s. And I mentioned Ozzy Osbourne and Lita Ford's Close My Eyes Forever and Kix's Don't Close Your Eyes. Those were two that really jumped out to me during that age of songs that I hadn't heard that touched on such serious topics. And I'm going to go with something from Papa Roach that came out in 2022 on their album Ego Trip, which I'm going to piss some people off when I say this because I know everybody immediately thinks Infest. And I had a chance to meet Papa Roach when they were touring that album, opening up for Eminem and Limp Bizkit as the opening act on that tour. Ego Trip might be my favorite Papa Roach album ever. It feels like they took all of their eras over 2 decades and just honed it all in, and they brought little pieces of everywhere they've been musically.
I agree. I think Jacoby agrees with that too. He felt that this was one of the best, if not the best record that they made as a band. I think there's everything. I often say this, it's everything we love about Papa Roach. Those impactful lyrics, that Papa Roach energy. And all right, so name your song. I know what you're going to pick, but name your song.
I'm going to go with Leave a Light On.
How could you not? It's probably the biggest and the best that we got in this era.
I thought about going with Scars from 2004 because that's more of the big power ballad, the love song. But coming out of Angel's Son, I feel like this is a fitting follow-up to that.
And a monster song for them. I mean, then Carrie Underwood came and cut a version. And again, it's one of those songs where when I saw Pete Roach at the Prudential Center,
incredible show.
Last time I saw them, were you there?
Took the whole family, Spirit Box and Shinedown as well. What a show.
Did you see when they were doing Last Resort and then Leave a Light On? It was exactly what I just said, where the whole place is on fire. And then all of a sudden, whoosh, they're hanging on, Jacoby's every word during Leave a Light On, and the phones are up and the lighters are up. And it was a really intense moment.
That was like one of the first times that I really started bonding with my oldest on music. Because at the time, they were both into the Taylor Swifts and whatever the pop stars were. And I've tried my best as a father to introduce them to as many bands as possible. I've taken them to see everything from Metallica to Blues Traveler to Lamb of God. The latter did not go over as well as I thought it would.
Lucky kids. Holy crap. They are so lucky.
I figured if anything, they're going to go off to college with a musical education and they could go on whatever musical path they want. But Leave a Light On was one of those moments that I think both my kids really felt music. And I think this is an important song to have on this, just for the fact that it's such an important topic. Not everybody could be so big and strong and powerful in one song and then admit that we're all human and we all have our insecurities and our vulnerabilities. And it's not weak to ask for help. And
Yep.
I think that's
Yep.
an important message in a post-2000 power ballad.
Yeah, that's a special song. So that had to be on this list. And I'm really, really glad that you included it because some songs are great songs, but some songs are just like special where you go, this is a really special song. There's more happening. I call it purposeful music. You know, there's a purpose behind this song. And yeah, amazing, amazing, amazing choice. Absolutely had to be featured. All right, great. Is it my turn?
Your turn next. We go back and forth here.
All right. I have to give some of my ladies, get some of my ladies on this list because I'm a big, big, big proponent of females in rock and roll, really talented women. And Dorothy is on my list. Dorothy Martin, AKA Dorothy. And I'm going to go with Rest in Peace.
Nice.
She came out with this song in 2022 from an album that I think is so criminally underrated called Gifts from the Holy Ghost. This song was written by Dorothy. Scott Stevens, who is an amazing songwriter and very good friend of mine. I got to tell Scott to listen to this. Scott writes for everybody and with everybody. Daughtry and Shinedown. I mean, like you name the band and Scott Stevens is somewhere. So he writes this also with a guy named Blair Daly and Zach Malloy, and they come up with Rest in Peace. But I remember Scott telling me I couldn't imagine anybody else singing this song other than Dorothy. And I didn't really even know her that well, but I wanted her to sing this song. And there is something about it. She said it's a song that kind of rests her demons. I also think it's a song that can rest a bad relationship. One day I'll be dancing on your grave, taking it back, the life you stole. Now, like it just, the lyrics are so incredible. And it starts off, with her just kind of getting you into the song. And then the power of that ballad comes and then she takes it back. And it's storytelling, modern day power ballad storytelling at its finest. So Dorothy, Rest in Peace on my list.
Is amen a good word to use to follow up that? The first time I heard the cadence in the chorus of Hallelujah, I'm over you, yeah, I was like, I am in. I am sold on this. Now, to me, Gifts from the Holy Ghost was a bit of a musical pivot for Dorothy because Rock is Dead leaned very indie rock.
Then she had 28 Days in the Valley, she was like hippie trippy, very organic kind of record. And that's what I love about her. The common thread with all of her music is that incredible voice. Like that's the music. That's the instrument that you're listening to the most. She has a banging band. And she just surprises me all the time, Just when I think she's going here, she goes here. And a true artist. She's a true artist. So I wanted to make sure she got some love on this list.
Couldn't agree more. And I think everything she's done from Gifts from the Holy Ghost into The Way signals where she's probably heading into the future, because I could just see her moving up the charts to be there with groups like the Pretty Reckless and Halestorm who have made that leap to the next level.
I hope so, because she deserves it. And I really want to see her get there. She's a hard worker too. I've seen her do stuff like where she's doing this and she's doing this and she's doing this. And she would be like, I'll come to the radio station, even though it's a show day for me. Like she works her ass off and really, really deserves it. I think she's the new breed of rock star and a quality artist through and through.
Well, I think to follow her up, I'm going to stay with this female rock thing. As somebody with two daughters, I have to represent the ladies as well.
Yes, yes.
And this is a group that later this year, I bought the tickets a year in advance, but I will be taking my girls to see. And I can't wait because my father was the biggest AC/DC fan. And in 2016, him and I went to go see them at MetLife. And I made a promise to him that night that the next time AC/DC came around, we would take the whole family. Now, unfortunately, my father is no longer with us, but he will be there in spirit. And I kept,
I'm sorry.
I kept my promise. He will be there with us because I am taking the whole family to see AC/DC. However, I am just as excited to see the opening act because it'll be the first time I get to see the Pretty Reckless live. And when it comes to power ballads, There are so many that I could choose from their repertoire, but I'm going to go all the way back to their first album, Light Me Up, and go with a little bit of a deeper cut from them. And it's a song that I think is criminally underrated, should have been a massive hit, and it's the song that I discovered them on. And it's Just Tonight. And I get the fact that the way people are now with TMZ and everything else, that she's forever going to be followed by the fact that she was the actress that played Cindy Lou Who in How the Grinch Stole Christmas, as well as her role on Gossip Girl. And she's the quote unquote actress turned musician. But to me, she's purely a musician. Yes, I understand she can act and I understand the stuff she's done, but I discovered her more through her music than I did through her roles in television and in movies. Because at the end of the day, she slays it. And she's got a bit of a bluesiness to her voice that comes out in this heavier rock, but she could do a collaboration with Warren Haynes on an album, but then bring this darker edge to the spectrum where it's almost in this Soundgarden vein. I know she toured with them. Kind of like Dorothy, there's a little bit of a spectrum of music that she brings to this band that's not pigeonholed anywhere. But Just Tonight is that punch you in the face power ballad. And I get that we're staying on a little bit of these darker tones like we did with Sevendust and Papa Roach and Dorothy, but here this is a song about a tormented relationship, a breakup. I can't tell, maybe there was a car crash involved, but the vocal delivery is what I'm focused on here. She delivers it in almost this more bluesy, even almost in a, dare I use the word, sexy way. She's trying to deliver this pain and torment. It kind of brings back a little bit of that 80s ethos, and I think it just works really well coming out of some of the darker tones that we've talked about already tonight.
And I think on that record, they needed that song to give that record the diversity that she gives that band. So yeah, there's so many great you know what other song I love from them too? I almost had it on my list is 25.
Oh yeah.
Which is another phenomenal singing her heart out kind of power ballad. It's almost like a love song to herself in a way, but I'm so happy that you've got Taylor on this list because she so deserves to be on it because she's a real torch song kind of rock vocalist. She's got this whole torch songy, like you said, bluesy, sexy kind of sound. Yeah, it's almost like her voice is pole dancing a little bit.
Well, we're about to close out the first half of this playlist, and you get to choose the last song for the first 5.
Okay. Let me go Alter Bridge. I'm going to go Alter Bridge and Blackbird.
Oh.
I love this song. It is very haunting. I think it took the band from one place to the next place. It's probably one of their longest songs on a record. It clocks in close to, I think, almost 8 minutes. It's about a friend of Miles Kennedy who Miles lost. There's this whole big epic feel and vibe in the song. It's the title track from the album. And it's just one of those songs that when they sing it, if they sing it live, there's just something very magical about that song. And I've had people hit me up to play that song on the radio for them. And I'm like grabbing the CD to get the whole, you got to do the whole song.
Oh, you can't do a radio edit.
There's no edit or anything like that. You got to get the whole thing in because it means a lot. It's a very impactful song for people. And it is not maybe one of their most well-known songs, but the Alter Bridge fans, they're a very special group as well, and they know everything this band does. It is a fan favorite and one of their epic kind of songs. You know, they started then making more in the way of like epic sounding songs with big giant imagery, and I think Blackbird was one of those first songs that I heard that did that for me.
I love the pick. I had this and Ghosts of Days Gone By on my list. Even though Ghosts of Days Gone By is slightly a little bit more up-tempo during the verses and stuff, I still feel that anthemic chorus. Because when I think about an anthemic chorus, post-2000, it's very hard to not immediately think about Miles Kennedy. His voice was built for that anthemic chorus. And I think he's one of the, what I call it, bridges to the old sound of the 80s power ballad like we were talking about at the top of the episode, because he hits those high notes with just such effortless ease. And I know there's a lot of people that talk about, well, Alter Bridge is just Creed with a different singer. And
Nah.
I've never believed that because
Nope.
in this universe, I cannot hear Scott Stapp singing Blackbird. I really feel that even though the musicians are one and the same between the two bands and they share the two groups, I really feel like they've carved out their own niche on each side of that spectrum. And they do it in such a way that it feels unique to each singer's strengths. And Blackbird is something that, I'm sorry, as much as Scott Stapp is an incredible vocalist, that is Miles Kennedy's song, and that is their universe. That is an Alter Bridge song.
Yep.
And Creed has ones that I just don't feel that Miles would do justice to because it needs Scott's energy. And that's something that I've heard a lot of people argue about, and it kind of drives me crazy, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I think the feel of the bands are so different. And I hear a different Tremonti in Alter Bridge than I hear in Creed. Maybe that's just me as a Tremonti fan. I hear a different rhythm section in Alter Bridge than I hear in Creed. So yeah, I agree with you. I think that that is a Miles Kennedy song through and through. I don't think anybody else can sing the vocal gymnastics that are in that song. And there's definitely just a different feel for each band. And Miles is such an emotional singer that like if you when you see them perform that live, when they perform that live, like people are crying.
Oh, yeah.
That song means so much to them. So yeah, I had to get an AB song on my list because I'm such an Alter Bridge fan.
Perfect way to close out the first half of this post 2000s Power Ballads playlist, which kicked off with Sevendust's Angel's Son, followed up by Papa Roach's Leave a Light On, Dorothy's Rest in Peace, The Pretty Reckless Just Tonight, and Alter Bridge's Blackbird. Head over to myweeklymixtape.com to hear all the songs we've discussed in this mix through the playlist embedded on the episode page. And now we're going to dive into the second half of this playlist. And Terrie, I'm going to go with one that a group that I actually got to catch up with you in person last summer when we both saw them live at their first ever headlining Madison Square Garden show. And that is the one and only Shinedown. And when I say the band name, there are so many different songs I could choose from here. I mean, Second Chance, I Dare You, A Symptom of Being Human, Get Up. There are so many that could work so well. And I'm going to go with one that for me is extremely important. Back in 2019, my wife and I were lucky enough to get our hands on a pair of primo seats for the Attention tour up in Guilford, New Hampshire. And when they broke out, I'll Follow You, it moved me to tears. I'm there with my wife, who's somebody who's been there with me now for over 20 years through thick and thin, good times and bad. I mean, life has thrown us everything, the ups, the downs, the happy times, the sad times. And she has been my rock through life. And it's a song like that that we got married a long time, way prior to this song ever coming out. And it's one of those ones that, thinking back, I'm like, I see why people use this as their wedding song. And it doesn't necessarily have to be about a partner. It could be about a friend. There's just so many layers of depth to this song that Brent brings lyrically. I feel like they're a band that, and I know this sounds weird to say because they don't know me personally, but damn it, they get me for some reason lyrically, if that makes
You're
any
not
sense.
the only one that feels that way. I mean, that I think is the magic of their fan base because they just connect. They are a band that connects. I saw that from the first minute I put them on the air. I mean, when I was at WDHA, one of the first stations they ever came to, if not the first in the Northeast, was us. And I wasn't even going to be there that day. I was doing a live broadcast from a barbecue joint. So they said, well, we'll come to the barbecue joint and we'll play. And they were at Pop's Barbecue in Madison, New Jersey.
Huh.
And I was doing the lunch hour live, and Shinedown is in there. And they did 4 songs. They did Fly from the Inside. They did 45. They did Burning Bright and Simple Man.
Of course.
for this barbecue crowd. And I saw it then. There's a connection that this band makes with the fans that you just said it perfectly. They get me. Everybody feels like that. You could be a teenage girl or a 70-year-old man. It doesn't matter because their fan base feels that way. This person is talking to me. And that's the magic, man. Everybody wants that, right?
And that is not something that's easy to pull off.
No.
I mean, you think about a lot of the songs out there and you listen to it lyrically and you're like, man, in my 20s, I would have related to that. But now, not so much. For some reason, with Shinedown lyrics, no matter what it is, even a song like Adrenaline, something as simple as that, they just get who I am.
Yeah. Yeah. Great choice, too. I'm glad you chose that one because, Symptom of Being Human, everyone knows that one. And so I'm glad that you picked that one because I think I think it's a perfect choice for the list. Great.
All
Great
right.
stuff.
Well, tossing it back to you for track 7 here.
I have a prop for track 7.
Okay.
All right. I'm going with Halestorm.
Nice.
From their debut and Familiar Taste of Poison. This was a different side I saw of the band. I love the video. It was almost like I saw Lizzie as a leading lady. Like all of a sudden, I just saw all of the things that she could do. And she was still very young. This was 2009 when this came out. So I have this prop because Lizzie dedicated the song to me and gave me a rose at
Wow.
PNC Bank Arts Center. And this is actually like, it's not a real rose, but someone makes them in her camp. So she dedicated this song to me. So that song is always very special. I've always loved it. But then to have her dedicate that song to me and then give me the rose was very special. So I love it. So yeah.
That is absolute. I caught that 2009 touring cycle several times up in New Hampshire as well as in New Jersey, Starland Ballroom. I think they were with 3 Days Grace at the time.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. I was at that show. Yep.
And seeing them on stage, I turned to my buddy and said, these guys are going to be huge. There is not a single doubt in my mind. They have every bit of the it factor. Then when I saw them that same year up in New Hampshire, it was with Chevelle, Shinedown, and Stained. And again, you just knew. Everybody in the crowd knew. They were commanding the audience from what I call the sunshine slot, which is where the sun is just beaming down on them. They don't need lights because they're playing in the middle of the day, and they were still commanding the audience like it was 11 o'clock at night. And that, I think, went through all of their albums. I could have went with a ton of ballads from them. Raise Your Horns, which is just Lizzie and a piano. Yep. I know it's not a power ballad, but the notes she hits and the gravel she screams at the end of that song make a piano a power ballad. And then I have to just give a shout out to Here's to Us. I lost one of my closest friends back in 2011, and I got a chance to, I actually tweeted this out to Lizzie back when this happened. One of the lines in the song, if they give you hell, tell them go fuck themselves. My buddy always said to me, they don't like it, tell them to go fuck themselves. And this song came out months after he passed. I was on Route 46. I had to pull over my car so I could have myself a good cry and look up and go, are you kidding me? Her music, again, like Shinedown, they've evolved so much since 2009. And I think their albums are getting bigger and more epic, and they're really pushing the boundaries. She is a force to be reckoned with musically.
She's an escalator. I've called her an escalator for women. Sometimes you get from here to here and it takes slow, and sometimes you get from here to here. Lizzie's been somebody who has been an escalator, who has helped women in music, because let's face it, the music business is all about money. So people want to know, we're going to have a band and they're going to get on the charts and they're going to have 10 number ones and 5 number 5s, and we can put them as a headliner and they're going to sell tickets. And that's a big deal. And they never thought much of women in music. In the past, it was it's still very male dominated, but Lizzie has been an escalator. So when you say she's a force to be reckoned with, she has done much more for elevating women, talented women who are making music, than anyone will ever know.
I have to chime in on that because one of the first guests ever on my weekly mixtape was Amanda, the lead singer of Eva Under Fire. And Eva Under Fire does a amazing cover of Separate Ways, Worlds Apart, which came out about maybe a year prior to Lizzie and Daughtry's version of the same song.
I remember that.
And somehow the two of them connected and did it live once on stage when Eva Under Fire opened for Halestorm. And I feel like Halestorm giving that light to bands that are up and coming is so empowering. And it's something that is infectious because you see these bands continuing to try to raise other bands up and show the community aspect in music. And to me, that's a beautiful thing because a lot of times at the really underground stage, when there's battle of the bands and who can sell more tickets than who, the whole pay to play thing, unfortunately, bands start to lose sight of the fact that at the end of the day, the local music scene, and any music scene for that matter, is supposed to be a community.
Brilliant.
And that's something that I always carry with me. I feel like it needs to be.
Halestorm's one of those bands too. I think somebody said this to me. Everyone likes to tour with Halestorm. And some bands don't like to tour with other bands. There's a lot of that goes on behind the scenes. And a promoter said to me, well, Halestorm, I can put them on any bill because everybody likes Halestorm. They're just that kind of a band. And I also want to make a point. It's such a touchy subject because when you sometimes talk about women helping other women and stuff, people say, but now we have to take that out of it because bands just want to be bands. Well, I've got to tell you, until the women get the same respect, the same money, and the same everything as men, when you are able to move a cause forward, take that. Take those accolades because we need it. We're not there yet. We're definitely not there yet. So Lizzie is one of those people, and she is so one of those people who will help any band she's a fan of. Look what she did for Skid Row.
Oh, what a run. I wish that came to Jersey.
Those guys are super guys, and they just wanted to get some of their tour dates complete for the fans, for the band, for the promoters, for the venues. And she was like, look, I'm a fan of your band. I don't care what it pays, if it pays. Like, she didn't care. She's like, whatever dates you have, I'm in. Like, I'll do it. I just want to sing in Skid Row because that's just how she is. She's just a music fan. And man, we need those people. It's a community. You're right.
And before I go too much onto the side, can I just say how incredible Halestorm's cover of Slave to the Grind is from the Reanimate EP?
Amazing.
When she hits those high notes in it, like that is, oh my God, I love Slave to the Grind. Monkey Business is my favorite Skid Row song, but Slave to the Grind is such a monster. And when I heard they were covering this, I'm like, you have my attention. And when I first put it on, I'm like, okay, one of my favorite bands now.
Takes balls, man. Takes balls to do that song. And she slayed it. She killed it. And those guys love her. And rightfully so. You know, Lizzie's also just good people. She's just really good people.
Well, we're going to sway a little bit away from the female side of things here. And I'm going to go with a band that I don't know necessarily if they'll fit in the hard rock. I consider them hard rock, but there's definitely a glam element to this group. And I saw them at the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. It was either last year or 2024. It's a little hazy. The last year and a half has been crazy for me. With Seether and Stained.
Yeah, I think that was my radio station show.
Yes, it was WDHA.
2024?
Yes, I brought my youngest to that, and the Struts blew my mind. I've been a fan of them since I first discovered their music in 2015. They were still just a UK band, but they put out this little EP on iTunes, and I listened to it for about 5 hours straight one day. And then in 2016, they released their debut album, Everybody Wants, in the US, which is essentially the 2014 album with some re-records and some extra tracks. And on that album is a song called Merry Go Round. And to me, this is a pure, tried and true 80s power ballad done in the 2010s. His vocals, there's a touch of David Bowie to it. There's a touch of the hair band glam, and there's a touch of Queen to it. and you kind of roll it all into one and you get this sound that is so unique. And I don't know if rock radio was ready for the Struts at the time.
I think we were. I will tell you off the record. Well, I guess we're on the record now. I think we were ready. I don't think the band or the people around the band knew what they wanted to do with that band. And I would always ask about the Struts. And I was super psyched when we finally had them on our show. I was like, oh, this is so cool. And I thought I thought they stole the show.
They were
They
incredible.
stole the show. But I don't think anybody knew because bands always have to be boxed. We're going to get here on the active charts and here on the modern rock charts and here on the mainstream charts. And they were a band, and I don't know which camp it came from because somebody said, yeah, well, they're going to end up being more like a Maroon 5. And I'm like, a Maroon 5? They're like freaking Queen. He's
Right.
not Maroon. Like, what are you talking about? So I think there was that confusion. I think rock radio, whether we knew it or not, was so ready for a little bit of a different vibe and a little bit of a different sound. And I thought they could have taken that song to be a single. And I thought they could have taken that band from the beginning to go the distance. So I agree with you 10,000%. They're a rock band to me.
They're 100% tried and true, even though they had Body Talks where they did a version with just the band and then they brought Kesha on. I think they were testing where they went, but on Pretty Vicious, their last studio album, they knew exactly where they were going. And that is rooted in kind of like Too Good at Raising Hell had that Rolling Stones dirty with the horn section. Then Pretty Vicious, you get that late night drive swagger coming through in a song. They are so unique, and I feel like they're destined for greatness. And the thing is, on the other side of the pond, they're already there. The fact that it's taken nearly 12 years.
What's going on? I never understand it. I just don't understand it. They should have been big 5 years ago.
Amen.
They should monster. They're big, but they should have been monster 5 years ago. 5 years ago. They're rock stars. We need rock stars. People kind of forget sometimes. I love good singers. We love good songs, great live bands. We also need rock stars. Gotta have some rock stars. And Luke Spiller is a rock star.
Amen. 100% tried and true. And I'll say this. I think their time is coming, and I think it's coming very, very soon in the U.S. because
I hope so.
It's about damn time. So, Terrie, we're down to 2 songs left, one each. This is where it gets really tough because we're kind of summing up 25 plus years of power ballads, and we only got 2 songs.
Okay.
So, what is your last pick for this evening?
I have to go with one of my favorite supergroups of all time, and that is Velvet Revolver. 2 of my all-time favorite rock stars, musicians, artists are in that band. That's Scott Weiland and Slash. And Fall to Pieces was a song that it was the 3rd single from Contraband. And when I first heard it, I said, this band is going to be massively huge. I'd hoped and prayed that we would get more music and more music and more music and more music from the band. There's something about that song. It's kind of an ode to Scott with drugs and everything that went on with drugs. And he was sort of trying to leave it behind, issues in his marriage. So I think it's kind of leaving your demons here and trying to put that relationship back together. And it's just such an impactful song. His vocal is beautiful on it. Slash's guitar is incredible on it. And it was such a monster hit for the band. I think it stayed at number 1 for weeks and weeks and weeks. And it was on the charts, the rock charts for 11 weeks or 12 weeks, just like a massive hit for that band. So I could not leave Fall to Pieces out of my list because I think it's one of the most impactful songs of the 2000s, of that era. And, rest in peace, Scott. We had such a great band with Velvet Revolver, so different than Guns N' Roses. I don't know if Guns would have ever gotten back together had Scott gotten everything back together because they were so dynamic and such a rock and roll band. Oh, everybody in the band was a rock star. It was just so cool.
The term supergroup sometimes gets thrown around loosely. Velvet Revolver was every bit of the word super. When you look at that lineup and you look at the artists involved, the bar was set so high for them. You're talking Guns N' Roses and Stone Temple Pilots. On paper, when they first got announced, I remember a lot of people going, I don't know if this is going to work. And the first time I listened to Contraband front to back, I said, not only does this work, they've carved out something special here. And it breaks my heart that we were not able to see more from them. And I have to agree with you. I don't know if you get a Guns N' Roses. Guns N' Roses was still doing the Guns N' Roses thing. Chinese Democracy, that was all happening at this time. And I personally think Velvet Revolver eclipsed that era of Guns N' Roses. And I know that's a big say to the GNR fans out there.
It was such a rock band. I remember thinking this is what rock and roll needs right now. I saw them at Starland Ballroom. It was still the best show I have ever seen at the Starland Ballroom. I mean, just watching Scott on stage was such an experience. He was such a magical rock star. I mean, you just got so swept up. You felt so rock and roll after you left any show that he was fronting. And then to have Slash there and Duff there and Dave was just amazing. It was just a really, really phenomenal band. That song, too, has so much angst in it. His vocal performance is so poignant and almost like we're hearing things for the last time, you know? I felt very lucky that I was able to speak with him. And I don't want to say lucky that I got the last interview, but I think I got his last interview ever. Oh. And it was a surprise to me as well. He was playing the Wellmont Theater.
Mm-hmm.
And they said Scott Weiland's going to call. And it was the day before Thanksgiving and to promote the show. And look, I'd had many experiences with Scott. You couldn't always count on him to call. So I remember thinking, he's never going to call. And they said, he's going to call the hotline at 1:05. And I'm thinking, yeah, right. Okay. I barely did any prep for it because I'm like, he's not going to call me. So what's the difference? And sure enough, at 1:05, the hotline rang and it was Scott Weiland. And he was talking about his show coming up and he was a little slow in his speech, but he was so lovely and wonderful and sweet. And I remember playing that song after the interview because I felt like playing Fall to Pieces. And it was almost like a full circle moment for me where then he had passed away, you know, a couple weeks later. And I just have a very special feeling for that song and that last interview I ever did with Scott Weiland.
There are no words. You said poignant, I think was the word you used for his vocal delivery. I think it's might be, and he's got some incredible vocal parts throughout all of Stone Temple Pilots catalog, and it might be the most powerful chorus he ever hits. That chorus, when he hits those notes, it's transcendent. I think that's the word I'm looking for.
It is. That song transports you. And it's one of those songs where when the music is playing, you kind of feel like you're almost above the music looking down at it. I can't really explain it, but yeah, that's how I feel that song and I feel him. So I think Velvet Revolver, just underrated now. I mean, we knew how great they were then, but then I almost feel like people have forgotten about that because Guns has come back and Stone Temple Pilots are kind of doing their thing these days and stuff. And I think about Velvet Revolver and I go, shit, what a great rock and roll band. They were lightning in a bottle, a very short time, but what we got was boom. I mean, just the greatest.
Oh man. And I've got to put a bow on these 10 songs here, and I'm torn right now. I've got 2 songs that I could go to here, and I'm not quite sure. Okay. I got to give a shout out to the song I'm not going to use here because I think it's important, kind of like an honorable mention.
Go for it.
And that is Seether featuring Amy Lee's Broken from 2004.
That was on my list too. And then I said, let me go for some of these others. But I think that is one of the most important songs. So I'm glad you're giving that an honorable mention.
It has to, their voices together. I mean, now in this day and age, collaborations and features like we had talked about with Carrie Underwood and Papa Roach, they happen pretty much with every deluxe edition album that comes out. There's going to be a guest spot on a song that's already been recorded. Back when Broken came out, this was not the norm. And I know I'm saying that, and there's a little bit of an irony in that because Evanescence's breakout hit had a feature of Paul McCoy from 12 Stones and Bring Me to Life, but there was something special about the version on Disclaimer 2 and the Punisher soundtrack with Broken that their voices together is just, again, like you had said with Velvet Revolver, it was lightning in a bottle. But that's looking back to 2004, and I think the song I want to close out tonight, I think wraps a nice bow on this episode, and it also looks forward to the future of what the power ballad can become as we move forward. And this is somebody that you had the chance to have at Debonair Music Hall for WDHA. And I am going to close this up tonight with Mammoth's Take a Bow from 2023's Mammoth 2. Guitar playing aside, I think it's safe to say that Wolf is cut from the same cloth from the Van Halen lineage, but he plays every instrument on every Mammoth album. And I don't think people understand the complexity that goes on in these songs. And the first time I heard the Mammoth album, I listened to it in headphones, and I kept saying to myself, some of these runs, this kid is special. He is another level. And when I saw him open up for Metallica, I said, there is going to be no nepotism with Wolf Van Halen. Unfortunately, in the wires and in the rags, there is people saying that it's all, the only reason he's famous. Shut up. He is famous because he earned every last bit of it. And Take a Bow is such a perfect song to kind of close this playlist up. Not because of the fact that he's playing his father's original Frankenstein guitar through an original Marshall head and a cabinet used on the early Van Halen album. So just there alone, for the music nerds out there, that tone that you're hearing in the guitar is him channeling his father literally and figuratively. I love it so much. There's such a beauty to that.
And I felt bad because I feel like he had to wait to do that because everybody was judging him all the time.
Right from the start.
And he couldn't, he had to like put his dad over here. And then all of a sudden kind of got into the groove and said, you know what? These people are here for me. And this is my record and I can do this now. And what we got was just what you said, just a masterpiece. That song is a masterpiece.
The longest song Mammoth has ever recorded as of now. And I am happy to say that as of recording this, we are just a month and change away of me taking my girls to their Christmas present of the year, which is 11th row at the Wind Creek in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
Beautiful.
For Mammoth and 10 years, because again, I need to take them to as many different rock artists as I can. And I think they need to see Mammoth. I think they need to experience that because one day when he's playing stadiums, they're going to say, I saw him when, and I'm going to say, that's because of me. And Take a Bow just feels like it's a nice close lyrically and musically for tonight's post-2000s power ballad playlist.
Yeah, and probably my favorite Mammoth song ever. So yeah, and I'm a Mammoth maniac. I love Wolfgang. I love everything that whole band does. They're just brilliant. And so I'm glad you picked my favorite song from one of my favorite bands to close out today.
Well, that, folks, is the second half of this post-2000s power ballad playlist, which kicked off with Shinedown's I'll Follow You, followed up by Halestorm's Familiar Taste of Poison, the Struts' Merry Go Round, Velvet Revolver's Fall to Pieces, and Mammoth's Take a Bow. Head over to myweeklymixtape.com to hear all the songs we've discussed in this mix through the playlist embedded on the episode page. Well, Terrie, that is a post-2000s power ballad playlist for the ages.
This was so fun. Oh my God, I had such a great time.
I appreciate you being here to talk power ballads with me tonight. But more importantly, I also want to talk about Car Stereo. Why don't you tell
my
people
podcast
about the podcast and where they can connect with you on social? Because like I said at the top of the show, your interviews have inspired me to become a better interviewer over the years. And I want my listeners to hear one of the best in the business and how you do it over there on Car Stereo.
That is so sweet. Well, I figured I would call my podcast Car Stereo, CARR Stereo, because I've been in people's car stereos for more than 30 years. Crazy. So, yeah, look, my terrestrial radio job fell by the wayside. So I was not going to really let all of my history and lineage in the business fall down the tube. So I love all my rock and roll family. I have great rock and roll connections with the artists, have always had really incredible, impactful conversations. So I wanted to continue that so people can find me on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. I have my website though, and it's terriecarr.com, TerrieCarr.com. So if you just click on my website, you can connect any way that you would like to follow the podcast. Please hit me up. You can email me. You can find me on social media. I'm on Instagram at TC Rock Dog. That's my previous handle. I'm not giving that up. I'm at TC Rock Dog. But please reach out. I'd love comments. I will always get back to emailers. And hopefully you can subscribe, like the page, and let me know who you'd like to have on Car Stereo Podcast, and I'll see what I can do to get them on.
Well, this has been an absolute honor, Terrie. Thank you so much for joining me tonight on My Weekly Mixtape.
Thanks for having me, Brian. I'd love to do it again. This has been so much fun.
Open invite anytime you want. Just say the word. And to those listening out there, remember, you can find My Weekly Mixtape on almost all the social media haunts at My Weekly Mixtape. If you have an idea for a future topic that you'd like to hear on the show, hit me up, myweeklymixtape@gmail.com, or use the contact page at myweeklymixtape.com. If you'd like to join the Mixtaper community, you can do so at patreon.com/myweeklymixtape. It's free to join, and there's several tiers if you'd like to support the show a little bit extra. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube, please leave the show a 5-star review or a thumbs up, leave a comment, do all the things, help spread the word about My Weekly Mixtape to other music fans in your life. My name is Brian Colburn. This has been My Weekly Mixtape, and until next time, enjoy the tunes.